Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about income, we'll be talking about budgeting, we'll be talking about savings, we'll be talking about investing, we'll be talking about how paying yourself first can stop you from going paycheck to paycheck before you buy a house and after you buy a house. We'll be also talking about how we built our income sources. We'll also talk about how Simran and I actually budgeted our way into making a lot of money, saving a lot of money, and now investing into real estate as well as stocks. And if we can do it, you can too. So let's get started. So like always, we have a presentation where we'll be talking about simple rules when you're new to Canada or you are a current homeowner and now you want to build your wealth. So we'll be talking about what rules we need to follow. Then we'll also be talking about when saving is actually a better strategy than investing money. A lot of people, especially who are renting, are in this dilemma whether they should put their money into RRSPs or TFSAs or where do they put it. So we'll be discussing about that and when saving is a better strategy. And then we'll be talking about making more money to thrive. So let's first talk about budgeting and how most people actually budget their incomes, especially if you are a newcomer. Household income, for instance, after taxes and everything is $5,000. Your rent is $1,500. You are actually living in a basement, not liking it, but that's okay because your income doesn't support living in a condo. The rents are very high. Your utilities and phone bill is $200. So your utilities is about $100 if you're living in a in a basement, and your phone bill is about $50 per person if you're a couple. So that's $200. Your grocery is about $500. It's on the higher side, but let's take $500. Public transport is $150. A lot of people actually buy a car. That's not advisable. So let's assume that you are someone who would rely on public transport till the time you actually increase your income. And then daycare, if you have a baby, then obviously you'll have to put them in a daycare. You will get some rebate because you're new to Canada, plus you have $5,000 of household incomes. That's low. So let's assume that that's $1,000. So your overall needs budget is $3,350, and then you do shopping, you do eating out, you do travel, and all these are basically wants, which is about $2,000. So end of the day, you actually end up saving nothing, or in fact, in some cases, you actually go into credit card debt. I'm not saying you, I'm saying that's how most people would do it. Most people would also not be cognizant of the fact that if the income increases, so what happens is for most new immigrants, you'll just come here, one of you will have a job, you'll be earning $4,000, $5,000 a month, and then suddenly two people are working and therefore you have two incomes coming in, or one person actually gets a really good job and now you get household income of $10,000, which is amazing after tax. Your rent suddenly goes up because now you need a 2-bedroom apartment. What happens is when you are earning a lot of money, you end up buying a fancier condo, not buying, but renting a fancier condo. And with the rent so high, you end up spending $2,800 or so, maybe sometimes $3,000 in rent. And that's painful. Your utilities go a little bit up, but now you also want your iPhone because iPhone, you can get it on contract. So you end up buying an iPhone, and now the utilities are worth $300 and not $200. Now groceries are a little bit up. Again, when you're making more money, you can spend a little bit more on grocery. I'm not saying it's wrong to move from $500 to $700. It's okay. But we need to just control and budget our income accordingly. Then we buy a car because now we just feel that we have to go around, which is nothing wrong with that. And $1,000, you buy an SUV and now you are actually in a much nicer area. The daycare is a little bit expensive. And now suddenly your needs have gone up to $6,300 with all this. This is a very typical way of budgeting. Nothing wrong with this. Again, I'm not trying to bash people who are doing this. And then what happens is you have shopping. It increases a little because it's a new house. You buy furniture, stuff like that, right? Eating out, it just increases a lot. You just go out with friends. You are going on Fridays. You are going out. Then you have travel. So you want to make a trip. You have struggled a lot in the initial phases. So you do want to make a trip. We still have a budget of $1,000 to date. We always had a budget of $1,000. Again, nothing wrong with having this. And then the problem is with all these needs and wants now closing on to about $9,500, you are only left about $450 to save. And this is what happens when our income increases, but our expenses also outpace income. And even if we are earning double, we are still not able to save enough. Now let's talk about how to flip this script a little bit, because you need to save and invest when you first come to Canada. Now, let's take the same example where you're earning $10,000. This is it. But now when you're earning $10,000, what you do is you save and invest 20% of $10,000, which is $2,000 in a separate account. Now, if you're a renter and if you're trying to buy a house in 12 to 18 months, just save it in a high interest savings account. I talked about EQ Bank. You don't even have to do it in EQ Bank. You can just put your money from checking account into your savings account so that it's out of sight, out of mind. That's what you do in the first instance on first of every month or whenever you get your salary. 20% of the income goes into some place where you can't see it. that's your saving. That's called paying yourself first. That's called investing first. That's called investing in your future first. And then you talk about all the other things that you need to pay for. For example, rent. I always talk about rule of 25. That basically means your rent related expenses should not exceed 25% of your household income. Sometimes it's not possible, and that's okay. If you can do it with rule of 25, that's good. Utilities and phone, get the iPhone, no problem, right? So let's do that. Grocery $700, not a problem. Car $1,000, you totally deserve it. Why not? Daycare, baby expenses, $1,500, absolutely. And this way, your needs will almost remain the same. A little bit of saving on the rent if you go by the rule of 25. Again, if you see these expenses, the biggest expense is your rent. So just try to control that a little. But now you'll be restricted to $2,000 of budget for your wants. And that's what's important. What we do in the first case, how most people do it is they actually do their needs, which is important. They do their wants. And then whatever they are left with, that goes into savings and investments by default, right? It's not planned. It's just by default, whatever is left is going into their savings. And sometimes it's even not that, you might spend a little bit more on travel, or you had an emergency, right? In the second case, what you are doing is you are actually paying yourself first, you are saving first, you are investing first, and whatever is left then is going into your needs, because you need that, you need shelter, you need food, and then whatever is left of it goes into your shopping and eating out and travel. If you keep those $2,000 aside, if you keep that 20% aside, you will never want to touch that, because if you have that saving, you would build confidence as a new immigrant. Trust me, if you have money in the bank, you build confidence, and that's really important. So pay yourself first, that's the right way of budgeting. Now let's talk about when to save and when to invest, and we'll come back to budgeting and our example, but I made this video a few weeks ago now where I talked about how savers are actually losers, and we talked about how you should not save your money in your bank account and how you should always invest money because it compounds over time. However, there are two cases when you should actually save money into a high interest savings account or into any savings account. And the number one reason that you will do is if you're buying a house in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, a lot of people actually call me and say, Navjot, what should I do with this $24,000, $30,000 that I have saved? I need to save another $30,000, but what should I do with this money? And I always tell people, and this is I'm not a financial advisor, but that's what I would do. If I have to buy a house in the next 12 months, I would not invest that money into any stocks, ETFs, not certainly in cryptocurrency, because all these things, especially today, are a little bit unstable, and you do not want to see your money go down if the market goes down. And when you're buying a house, you actually take a loss on those shares because you need that money. So if you need this money, if you have extra money, sure, why not? But if you need this money for your house, do not invest. That's what I would do. I would just put it in my savings account. And number two is you do not have an emergency fund. I see a lot of people investing everything that they have and more, taking their line of credits and investing into real estate, into investments. But what if you lose your job? You're not able to service that debt. You're not able to service that, negative cash flow that you have. You're not able to service if there are any emergencies and you have to go into debt. You cannot liquidate because the market has gone down. So first, make your emergency fund. That should be about 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. Do a budget, and it's okay to lose to inflation on your emergency fund. That's what I do, and I have actually seen a lot of difference in the way I now confidently invest into things. So those are the only two reasons I would save my money and not invest, but on every other occasion, I would just invest my money every chance I get. Now you might ask me, Navjot, if I'm just saving $2,000 a month, how can I buy a house in my first 12 to 18 months? And you're right, if you're earning $2,000 times 12, that's $24,000. That's barely your emergency fund, and you cannot buy a house. Yes, you can. You can buy a 5%, you can make a 5% down on a $500,000 house. But if you're earning $10,000, you might be qualified for about 600, 700, 800, right? And for that, you need a bigger down payment. So the answer to that is, and this is something that I can say with confidence because I now talk to so many people. I've talked to over 1,000 people last year, and I see this trait in every single person who is able to buy a house at 10% down. And that is they try to minimize their wants as much as possible in order to fund their investments a little bit more. Maybe, eat out less a little. Do not buy anything that you don't need. Just buy whatever you need when you move to your new apartment or your new house that you buy, and travel less, right? So all these things can actually move into about $1,000, $1,500 more into your investments. And then I see a lot of people actually reducing their needs as well. For instance, you do not buy a car for a year till you buy a house. You do not buy that iPhone and reduce $100 from your expenses. You do not buy expensive grocery and try to budget it to $500. You do not buy that car, like I said, and continue to use public transport or an Uber here and there, and you save on insurance and everything. And this way, instead of saving $2,000 a month, you are able to save about $4,000 to $5,000, especially if you're earning $10,000 plus. Now, if you're earning less, you can use the same principles and do those calculations again And the other thing is that they also try to work Uber. They have a side hustle so that they can make 500, 600, 700, 1,000, sometimes $3,000 more. If you are into IT and if you can pick a part-time contract job, you are able to make more money, and that way you are able to save 5 to 10% down payment in 12 to 18 months and buy your first house. Now the problem is buying a house. Once you have bought a house, the problem is that we actually do not budget our house really well. Let me give you a typical example of what happens when you buy a house. Now, with these interest rates that we have, even if you buy like a $700,000, $800,000 house, your mortgage payment will be pretty high, and the bank will actually qualify you for a lot more than you should actually buy, and therefore your mortgage payment will be $4,500, $4,000 plus. Your utilities and phone bill have actually gone up because your utilities are a lot now. You need to pay for hydro, you need to pay for water, sewage. So $500 of utilities and phone bill is the minimum that you will be spending. Then you have grocery, car bill, daycare, baby, whatever we had in the previous slide when we were renting. We have all those expenses. They have not gone down, and therefore your needs are now over 80% of your household income. And overall, you are only left with about $1,800 on your wants, which is okay because you can't just spend more than what we are earning. And then again, your savings are minimized. Now, buying your first house doesn't mean that you have to compromise on savings. So the way I try to budget my clients' income when we are buying a house is the other way around. If your household income is $10,000, make sure that you're investing again first. $2,000 should again go into investments. Your mortgage should not exceed 35% of your household income. That's $3,500. So your house is never an investment, and your first house is never your final house. And now you've reduced your needs by about $1,000 by paying less mortgage. But now, because you paid yourself first $2,000 plus $7,200, you're only left with $800 to spend on your wants. And that's okay, because now you would know that you need to reduce your expenses even more because you need the fancy stuff, and you would want to make more money so that you are able to increase the amount of money that you're spending on wants. So you would want to do some of the fancy stuff, and for that you need to make more money and reduce your expenses as much as possible. Now we'll talk about making more money in a bit, but let's now talk about how we did it. And we have had a really different trajectory, I would say, and that's partly because we have been working, I think, 12 to 20 hours, a day since we came here. But this is how our journey has been, and this is how we have budgeted our lives. So when we came to Canada, March of 2020, middle of the pandemic, I did not get a job. Simran was doing a contract job, $20 an hour. She was working about 50 to 60 hours a week, and she was earning about $2,500 plus $500 were actually coming from YouTube and some of the other things that we were doing. So we were getting about $3,000 a month. We were not investing or saving anything because we didn't know what's going to happen in COVID. We didn't know, how much expenditure. We didn't know if we'll die. We didn't know a lot of things at that time. So we did not invest anything. Our rent, mortgage, utilities were $1,250. We were living in a basement. That was okay. Phone bill was $110. And you would see that our phone bill has not changed even now. And we are earning almost 10 times now. Grocery bill remains $400. Car, we did not have it. We were not traveling a lot because it was COVID. We were not eating out a lot because it was COVID. And we were not shopping a lot because we didn't have the money and we didn't have steady income. So by this, we were actually spending about $2,000. We were making about $33,000, and we were saving about $1,000 for those 3 months that we were living in the basement. And then I got a job, and then, our YouTube, and, I also started a couple of other things, calls and here and there. And now YouTube was making a little bit more money. Our first video got viral, and now we were earning about $11,000, $9,000 from our incomes. Both me and Simran were working full-time jobs, and we had $2,000 coming from our YouTube hustle that we were doing. And now we did it the right way. We started investing 20%, about $2,000, and we were not investing it. We were actually saving it because we knew that we want to buy a house within 12 months. So we were saving that money into EQ Bank. We have made many videos when we came here about EQ Bank. We were getting about 2.5%. Now it's about 1.5%, whatever that percentage is. We were just getting that on our money every single month. Then our rent was about $1,900. Our utilities were about $100. So we were spending not 25%, but about 18% on rent and utilities. Now it's not possible right now because the rents are very high, but that's what we were doing. Now our phone bill did not change. It was still $110. We bought our phones on cash somewhere down the line when we had more money coming from business, but our phone bill remained $110. Our grocery bill remained $500. It increased by a little because now we were just wanting to buy a little bit fancy and eat a little bit healthy. Our car payment increased because we wanted a car, because we are YouTubers, we want to travel, we want to make videos, and therefore we bought a car, but we actually bought the cheapest car. And before buying a car, I actually called the insurance company. I said, okay, I have two options. One is Toyota Corolla, one is Hyundai Elantra. Which would be the cheaper insurance? And they said Hyundai Elantra would have the cheapest insurance, and that's how we bought the cheapest car. It was very economical, and we still spend almost about $800 a month, even if we are making a lot more money, which was less than 10%. So rule of 10 on car, You should not be spending more than 10% on car related expenses. And then shopping was $400, eating out was $200. We were doing it, once a week. And then travel and miscellaneous. So travel is always been something that I have budgeted. I almost budget about 10%, into travel. We try to do that a lot because to us, travel is really important and it just recharges us to actually make more money. And therefore, even though I've put it in wants, shopping, eating out, travel is wants, but I actually, for us, it's basically a need. So overall, we were spending about $5,000 a month and we were saving almost $4,000 for 12 months that we were staying in Etobicoke. Sometimes we actually made more money if we got sponsorship income. All that was going into our savings. We were not investing anything at that time. We did invest a little into our TFSAs, but still we were not doing that a lot. So that was for 1 year, and after that, in June of 2021, we moved to our condo in Kitchener. We have made many videos on Potato Talkies channel, and our income also increased to about $14,000. I got a raise in my salary, plus our YouTube was actually doing very well. My first job accelerator was giving about $2,000 a month, so we were earning about $14,000, and that was when we actually increased our amount of investments that we were making by about $500 to $2,500, and our overall mortgage plus utilities increased to about $2,500. So I always say that mortgage should be 35%. Our mortgage was in fact 18%, and that's the reason why you would see the number here, the surplus was really high, because we were qualified to buy about 850, 870 at that time. We did not give into the emotion of buying expensive, and we bought a condo for 420. It was smaller than we would have bought normally, but I think it worked out pretty well because then we were able to invest into more properties and invest into our investments as well. At that time, that was important to us. And then, our overall rents were, mortgage and utilities was about $2,500, including condo fees and everything. Then our phone bill is still $110. It has not increased from day one. $500 for groceries, $750 for car. It reduced because the amount of insurance that we were paying reduced when we moved to Kitchener. And then the shopping was a little bit higher because it was a new house. We had a budget for that as well. But overall shopping was about $500. Eating out is about $400. And then travel did not reduce, it actually increased. So our income increased by about $3,000, but our expenses barely increased by about $700. And that's why we were able to save over $5,000 for the next 6 months till I left my job. And after I left my job, I really thought that our income will actually go down. But Simran got a new job and she got a contract job. Her salary doubled, and my income, I actually earned more money than I even didn't think. So my income and Simran's income together is over $25,000 average. Now it's a business, so we can't say that some months are low, some months are high, but it's well over $25,000 average every single month. We are still investing $2,500, and I actually invest all the surplus money into real estate because that's what I understand very well. I actually get deals for clients as well. If you are in the market to buy, just book a call from the description below and we'll talk about this and how I analyze my deals. But I still continue to invest $2,500 even though we are making a lot more, but we are not investing all that into the stock market. Now, the line that you see here, the save and invest line that you see here, all this is something that we actually invest into the stock market. We max out our TFSA budget. We do not do any RRSPs. Now, if your employer is matching, you should put into RRSP. So that's the number one thing. So that's where we are still spending $2,000 plus $500 of crypto. So that's where it's going. But overall, our expenses have not increased a lot. Now we have moved on rent right now, and we have about $3,000 of expenses, a little bit less than that, $2,500 in rent, and the rest is utilities. Our phone bill still remains the same. We are still due to buy an iPhone, but we'll do it in cash because we'll only do it when we can afford it. Our grocery bill is now a little bit higher because our parents are here. There are 4 adults in the house, so grocery bill is a little bit higher. Our car bill remains the same. In fact, it has gone down a little because in Cambridge, we are living in Cambridge now. The insurance is a little bit lower. Plus, it's been 2.5 years, so I think that's where the insurance is a little bit lower now. The shopping expense is still about $500. We don't like to shop. I still wear Costco and Gap t-shirts. So there's eating out that happens once a month. Now we are 4 people, so it's a little bit more. And travel expenses are still about $1,000 that we do. Our incomes from July 2020, when I got my full-time job and we were earning $11,000, they have more than doubled. But if you look at this, our expenses then were about $5,000. Our expenses now are about $6,600. So they have just increased by about $1,600, where our income has increased by over $14,000. And that's what I mean by the top line that I wrote. The trick is to make more money and never outpace income. And that's really important. Now, I can make a different video on how to make more money. You can do Uber, I do YouTube, I do mortgages. There are so many different professions that you can do. All you need to do is identify what you're good at and then triangulated what you are passionate about and then work very hard towards that. It's easier said than done. I understand that, but that's something that we need to work towards. And I know a lot of people who actually do Uber because they love driving, and they're just like, okay, I make $500-700 a month additional that goes towards my car expenses, right? So you just need to set those targets for yourself and how much more money you want to make, and that way you can actually increase your surplus a lot more. But always remember, you need to pay yourself first, and that's what we have been continuing to do. And if you add this all up, I'll leave that to you. I'm pretty sure people are adding now. This will be about $300,000 that we have saved, and that's how we spent money on our houses. That's how we saved for 3 houses, and we have not used a line of credits. We have not maxed out. We have not taken money from our parents. We don't have any money in India. All this has been saved here by earning as much as possible and keeping our expenses as little as possible. To summarize, we need to remember the rules. If you're buying a car, rule of 10, never surpass 10% of your net income on car related expenses. That includes everything. Rent, rule of 25. Mortgage, rule of 35. If you can't afford 5 of something, don't buy it. That goes for all our wants. If you want to buy an iPhone, we better have 5 times that. Budget everything, every single expense, every single day. I have a budget calculator in the description below. Download that. I've actually discussed that many times. Just download it. You'll love it. It actually helps you itemize every single expense from your credit card, and that will help you understand where you are spending more and where you can actually optimize. Pay yourself first. Really, really, really important. Save and invest first, expense later. Save minimum 20% before buying a house into your whatever emergency fund, your savings account that is away from your checking account, your overall operating account. And when you buy a house, invest minimum 20% on day 1 of every single month, and then look at your needs and wants. Concentrate on income, and that's an underrated thing. A lot of people do not concentrate their income. They just get comfortable with what they are earning right now. That should not be the case. We should concentrate on getting our income up constantly and keeping our expenses and not outpace our income ever. Upskill and double down on your strengths. Surround yourself with people you want to be, and that's where I built the Founders Club. People who buy mortgages from me, they are part of now Founders Club. Now, money making is not for everyone. People want to be happy. Some people want to make money. Some people want both. I'm the kind of person who wants both. Again, I'm not saying you need to get a mortgage from me. What I'm saying is it's not about Founders Club, right? You need to surround yourself into those environments, into those clubs. Anyways, a lot about Founders Club, but that's all I have for today. I hope you like this video. There is so much value that I will be getting on this channel. This thing says that give more than you take. I intend to do that for the rest of my life. I hope you like this video. Do share it with friends who are also struggling with budget, or who would want to just know, how most people actually should be doing budget. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय बाय.